Of course. There is a rare ingredient found only in Helheim. The keeper that protects the Bridge of the Damned. I need its heart.
Hell.
The realm of the dead. Do you know it?
Not this one.
It is a land of unyielding cold. Fires cannot burn there, and no magic in all the 9 realms can create a blaze. As for the dead, your frost axe will be useless. You'll need to find something else.
Then I must return home. Dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
Who you were before doesn't matter. This boy is not your past, he is your son. And he needs his father. This rune opens the bridge to Helheim. When you are there, do not under any circumstances cross the Bridge of the Damned. There is no road back. Understand?
Boy.
Himalay. You must hurry. Through my garden there's a path leading to my boat. Take it. Return home, dig up your past, do whatever you need to do. Just bring me back the Bridgekeeper's heart, and your son may survive.
Freya. When last we spoke, I was...
No. You were right to distrust the word of a god. No need to explain. Not to me, not for that. I will keep him safe. That's a mother's promise.
Good morning, boys and girls of the internet. Today is Tuesday, October 9th, 2018. Be vlog number 281. I read a couple things yesterday about how kind of speculating, well, Sony is, that they're in the production stage or a pre-planning stage of their next console. Well, which we're tentatively calling the PlayStation 5. No reason why it shouldn't be called the PlayStation 5. You know, if all things considered. And of course, it got me thinking, got a lot of people thinking. It's like, oh, what do you want from a next console? Because here it is, it's 2018, and the PS4 came out, what, 2014, was it? 2015? Maybe? Wow. I can't remember. But it's been longer than a lot of people realize when this current generation of consoles came out. And a lot of people are saying that when they came out, both the PS4 and Xbox One, that they were already weak, that they didn't fulfill potential, they were underpowered, which I totally disagree with. Maybe people almost say that about every console that comes out when they first come out, because of course right away when, you know, the first batch of games is out for a brand new system, the visuals aren't all that much better than the previous console. You know, and they had a couple of games that struggled to, you know, come out at, you know, to run steady at 1080p, especially on Xbox, and they either had to lower the frame rate to maintain a higher resolution, or they lowered the resolution so they could have a better frame rate, and they just upscaled it. So like they would have like games, I remember on the Xbox One, run at like 900p instead of 1080p, and they would upscale it. Some games even less than that. And so people like pointed to that right away, saying that, oh, see, look, they're already reaching the limit of what the console can do, and these games are brand new. You know, the systems just came out. Do people not realize that whenever a new locked down hardware comes out, it takes a while for developers to optimize that hardware and to get everything out of it that they can. I dare say that we've just now reached kind of like the pinnacle of what these current consoles can do. In terms of the batch of recent games that have been coming out over the past year or so. I'll point to, my straight up examples. Because I play the PS4, I don't play Xbox One, but I'm sure they have their examples too. You look at some of the early PS4 games, like Knack. And Knack was okay. To me, it didn't scream next generation. It was a lot of the horsepower went to like calculating the physics of the character Knack, which I'm like, oh, man, that's stupid. No one really cares about that. It was a platformer. It was just a cutesy kid game. But compared to that to the likes of Uncharted 4, to Horizon Zero Dawn, to Detroit, to God of War, what you're saying now, they've optimized these games like crazy. And I dare say that the PS4, they were getting some really amazing things out of it. Not too long after the system came out. I'll point to The Order 1886. Now that game didn't do so well in terms of sales, because it was a very small niche target audience that the game's going for. It was kind of a shooter. It had shooting elements. It was a third-person kind of action game, but it's very scripted, very linear, but downright gorgeous. That game was near photorealistic, especially for the time. Now, of course, back then they got away with some tricks in order to get it that photorealistic. For example, they made it very linear, so it limited the scope of the world that they had to render, and so they can put a higher level of detail into both the characters and the environment, because you didn't have much environment to deal with. So in that sense, they could put all the horsepower into the immediate vicinity of what you're looking at. And number two, they purposefully letterbox that game. Now, most TVs are 16:9, but no, they letterbox that game, and so they kind of cut off two giant rows of pixels on top and bottom of the screen. So that enabled the system to not have to render, a huge swath of the screen. So it ran pretty much like, 900p or something. So that's the whole. I think it was probably more than that. I think the game came out at like 21:9 or something aspect ratio. And again, when it came out, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm sorry. On no platform whatsoever have I ever seen a game look this good. I mean, with all its things that's limiting, where all its graphics that it's focusing on right now, there's nothing that touched it at the time, and no Xbox game, no Nintendo game, and definitely no PC game has looked that good at that time. Because again, the focus was very limited. It was very, condensed, and they could really get this thing looking like a film. They also limited the frame rate to only 30 frames per second, which for a game like that, how they wanted it, that's perfect. I didn't want any higher frame rate than that, because then it will look fake. They were definitely looking for a film look. I'm highly digressing. Basically, when it comes to everybody thinks that, you know, when these systems come out, they're lacking in power. And that's mainly an argument you hear from a lot of like PC gamers, because they're used to like dropping, you know, 2 Gs on their systems easily. You know, they just released brand new NVIDIA graphics cards. You know, it's a whole new generation of graphics cards, and you can't get one for less than $650 just for one graphics card, and that's like the low end. That's their 2070s. In fact, I think they're a little more than that. But the high end, it's like $1,200 for one graphics card. That's not including the rest of the PC you have to stick this thing into. PC gaming is fucking expensive, and that's always been the case. So I would expect with all this power to, yeah, you better have some goddamn good visuals. But at the same token, if you ask me, sure, with the exception of like running 4K gaming at 60 frames per second, yeah, no console can do that yet. You know, it's not matching that. But if you know, talk strict 1080p gaming, 60 frames per second, anything a PC can achieve at that level, consoles can achieve. Oh, you ignorant console gamer, blah, blah, blah. You know, we can go way higher frame rate than that. We can go to, you know, we can be playing Fortnite at like, you know, 180 frames per second. You can't fucking see 180 frames per second. Oh, but I'm still playing it. I know that I'm playing it at that. So what? Anyway. So the argument was like, oh, there's no way these $400 consoles at the time, when they came out, can match up with the PC. Of course. That's kind of a given. But they did. They still matched up, if in my opinion. The core competency of these consoles, they matched up. So, the meat of the story. The PlayStation 5. We all know now that 4K televisions are definitely in the mainstream. You'd be hard pressed to kind of. You can go to stores and yeah, you find 1080p televisions, but it makes no sense to buy one at this point. If you're going to buy a TV right now, you can go find. Oh, look, it's a nice like 55-inch 1080p TV. You know, for like $300-400. Oh wait, here's a, you know, a Hisense 4K around the same price for like, you know, I saw one at Walmart the other day. It was like $430. 55 inches. That's a fucking good deal. And you saw my my unboxing of my 4K TV. That was a 49-inch TV, but it wasn't a low end. It was a good mid-range TV. Yeah, that's a good $600 TV. $600-700, I think. That's a really good TV. So it makes perfect sense that whatever systems come out from here till when they come out, they're definitely going to focus on being 4K, just straight out of the box. Just everything by minimum has to run at 4K. So you're going to need some pretty beefy hardware for that. Because really, if you think about it, like PC gamers, a lot of them are still, if you look at like specs wise and just like kind of like the averages, there's only very few gamers that game at the highest quality possible. They don't, you know, not everybody's running twin 1080 graphics cards, you know, and running 4K games at beyond 60 frames per second. No, not a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people would sacrifice resolution, and a lot of times they don't even have 4K monitors that they're running off of. A lot of times they're running, you know, like a 1440p monitor, maybe like a super wide, like 21:9, but they'll it's definitely, you know, not much beyond 1080p. And they're rendering, good frame rates, playable frame rates, 60 frames, 90 frames, or whatever, 100 frames per second. So even right now, on the average, not a lot of gamers are playing beyond 1080p or that much beyond it. You got now like your PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S, Xbox One X, sorry. And those are quote unquote 4K gaming systems, but they're doing tricks in order to get their 4K. But for sure, by the time the next generation consoles come out, they better have a minimum of 4K by standard. They should be able to do it, 4K, 30 frame per second, 60 frame per second for, some other games. The problem is when you get to that level, when you're running a higher level of detail, you have to be able to throw up higher resolution textures. The game world that you're playing has to have more level of detail, so you can see like more blades of grass on the screen. Hair has to be more realistic. You have to kind of like up the realism. A lot of things that people are saying also, what they are expecting from the next generation of systems. A lot of people are saying, well, the next generation of systems shouldn't even have a disk drive in them, an optical disk drive. I kind of wrestle with this. I like my physical games. I do. Not a lot of people do, though. There's a lot of people who are pretty much just straight up buying digital only. Again, I like my optical discs, but there's still a lot of people in the world that, or at least in this country, that they don't really have good stable internet. The internet's all right. Like my internet's kind of shitty. It takes a long time to download games and stuff, especially like going 50, 60 gigabytes. And next generation is going to be a lot bigger. First of all, your system, these next generation systems better have big ass hard drives in them. Slap a 4 terabyte in them from day one. Just give it to us, and we're still going to fill those up really fast. Cloud gaming, that's going to be a big thing with the next gen systems. But if you remove the optical drive entirely, you're going to alienate a lot of people, because some people are like, well, I want my physical game. It's hard, I live in backwoods ass, states that my internet speeds are shitty. Yeah, I have high speed, but it's not that high speed. I'm getting like 5 meg down, and some people are like that. One person, I saw someone mention a good thing that they should look into is kind of release 2 options. Release a version without an optical drive, one with. And that might be a good thing to do. Simply to kind of cater to both. And maybe later on down the line, if they start seeing that the sales of the optical drive version is not as high, they could drop it. But still give people options. Hell, even have it like be a plug-in. Where the box is still the same, but you buy the box set with the optical drive, and all it does is just like kind of sits on top of the system, and you plug it in, like an expansion type of thing. Maybe not a lot of people will sit well with that, but I would still get it if it's a PS5 with like a snap-on optical drive that is optional. Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy it. Other than that, there's not a lot of things that they could really do to differentiate it from this generation, because right now we're reaching a point of, should I say, you're getting diminishing returns. And what I mean by that is like games are already looking really, really good. The only thing you need extra horsepower for is the added resolution. Because when you go, going from 1080p to 4K, you're talking about like 4 times the resolution, and that's a lot of pixels to throw around. So that's where all the horsepower is going to go. The games themselves, they're going to, marginally look a little bit better. You get probably cool things like ray tracing, now that that's a thing. With these newer GeForce RTX cards. You're going to probably see that in the next-gen consoles. So you get better lighting, better, more accurate lights and shadows and reflections. But other than that, we're already at a point where we can, have games that look damn near photoreal. We just have to worry about the uptick in resolution. So you can like be able to walk up to a person on the street in your video game that's reading a newspaper and read the texture on the newspaper in high resolution or something. Who knows? I mean, I'm also wondering if, especially Sony, in particular, if they're going to continue to support for VR. I don't know what people are really thinking about VR right now, but I think it's kind of fading away. But a lot of people still like it. If they do it, like if the PS5 comes out, are they going to have like a front, a dedicated like port for their VR system? Or maybe like they'll come out with a newer VR headset where it's like wireless or something, and it's dedicated for the PS5. Well, hell, maybe they'll go a whole new direction and just go for like a whole room projection. Like, hey, this is gonna be our VR now, where we're just gonna like the system is gonna like sit on your back wall of your room, have a projector in the front of it, and most of your game is going to play on your screen, and we're going to project the rest of the game outside of it, so you can just like stand in the middle of the room and kind of see almost a 180-degree field of view. That was a demo that Microsoft kind of showed years and years ago that they wanted to kind of explore, but nothing ever came of that. It was a pretty cool demo, and I think that they should really more people should really explore that. I don't know how good of an application that really is, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. I really don't know what else they could really do. I will say though, I wish that if and when they do push out their PS5 and subsequently Xbox's next console, you have to make sure it's backwards compatible. That has to be just a thing. And I'm pretty sure if they just continue on with the x86 architecture of the CPU and all that stuff, they'll be able to maintain that compatibility. Because that's pretty much like the thing going forward, like especially now that they are coming out with incremental consoles, like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. From here on out, everything's going to have to be incremental. And you have to be sure that your games work with, or your systems work with games at least 2 increments back. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're going to start pissing people off. So just that alone, the new systems have to have or should have an optical drive, just for that compatibility, sake. I don't think Sony, especially with Sony, if they come out with the PS5, I don't really see the controller changing all that much. The PS4's controller is amazing. Maybe all they'll do is like just not have a touch pad on the top of it, because I really don't think that many games really take advantage of that anymore. It was like a good gimmick when it first came out, but it's not really all that special. Or maybe they'll think of some other gimmick to add to it. I hope they don't, because gimmicks are gimmicks, and I don't really care much for gimmicks. It's still a very interesting thing to kind of think about and speculate of what they might do. What are your thoughts? What do you think the next generation should have? What should they aim at? What should they focus on? And when would you reasonably expect new consoles? I mean, next year it's 2019. I don't think they should come out in 2019. That's too soon. We would have heard about it by now if they did. If they announce it by mid of next year, around E3 time, of course, maybe they can release the system in like spring of 2020 at the earliest. So I don't expect any new consoles before 2020. Because you got Nintendo rumors that they're gonna release like a higher end version of their Switch. I'm thinking that they're gonna kind of like just revamp it a little bit and then might have a little more horsepower, but I don't really see it, being all that much different than what they have now in terms of like the design. It's gonna be the same design, but maybe just a little more horsepower. Maybe more internal storage, because that was really short-sighted Nintendo to only include like what 32 gigs of internal storage. That's ridiculous. Switch Pro, whatever they're going to call it, and they're saying that that's going to come out next year. That's not going to be a new generation of console. It's going to be a mid cycle upgrade, just like a PS4 Pro, Xbox One X. That's just the nature of what we have to deal with nowadays. I hope the cycles don't end up being faster. I don't want a new cycle of systems coming out every year. That's ridiculous. Puts a lot of R&D of the console makers, the hardware makers, in overdrive. That's ridiculous. Phones do it, but phones are constantly like minusculely, improving. They're not doing that much different. They're all like they've been the same type of phone designs for the last like 3-4 years. Nothing's really changing except for like, the screens are getting bigger and better and like more closer to the bezel, so much so that we have to like move up into the top of the screen. So, but we still want to have a front-facing camera, so we're gonna have a notch. And on the back of the camera, we're gonna add like a few more lenses, a few more cameras in there. We're gonna have 3 cameras in the back, maybe 4 or 5. I think I saw like Nokia or something, or Motorola. They're gonna come out with a phone that has like 5 cameras in the back. I know the new LG, the V40, that's gonna have 3 cameras in the back and 2 in the front. Well, I mean, if that's the innovation that they're coming up with, more power to them, but that's not innovation if you ask me. It's just tacking on things just to kind of maintain the price of their shit. If you ask me, if they really want to like upset the market, come out with a phone that meets pretty much all the specs of like a phone from a couple of years ago, but like a really reasonable price, but like with like slicker and more like, amazing battery life, small and slim in the hands, something that feels nice in your hands, but it doesn't feel like a cheap phone, but it is coming out at a reasonable price. I only say that because there's some Chinese manufacturers that are doing that, and they come out with some pretty good phones for not that much money. Now I'm really digressing from consoles. Let me know what you think. When's the next generation of consoles coming out? I think 2020. That's going to be my bet. And then we'll see who's right. So no sooner than spring of 2020. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Everybody have a good day. I love you.